Are you trying to stay off the screen or something? I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call by the county clerk.
We have 27 present and 3 absent.
That was Supervisor Kennard. And Supervisor Morris is excused tonight. He let me know he wouldn't be here. Okay. Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Kennard, would you lead us? Just take a moment and thank whatever powers that be for the rain. Thank you. Please be seated. We're in compliance with the open meetings law.
Here we are, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. So moved by Supervisor Backman. Do I have a second? Supervisor John, second. Any questions, discussion? See anything need moved? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Approval of May 9th minutes. Supervisor Winnicke.
I would move approval of the May 9th minutes as submitted.
Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Johns. Questions, discussions? Anybody else pick up error? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Communications. Madam Clerk.
We have the notice of public hearing, planning and zoning, which is June 15th at 7 p.m. We have several retirement recognitions, and then you will also find the Blue Treasures report on your desk, and that is it.
Ms. Palm, for retirements.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a little while since we've been in front of you to present retirees and recognitions. It's since December, so we have a longer list tonight, but I see a lot of them in the back of the room. So I'm going to ask our Human Services Director, Brent Relo, and our Sheriff, Paul Milbroth, just to come forward for when we have Human Services and Sheriff Office retirees that they might have a few words that they want to say. And I'm sorry, it's not as organized as usual because we do have so many, so I'm just going to go in order. And raise your hands for retirees in the back if you're a retiree, because so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, almost half of you. Awesome. Our first retiree is Janae Krull. She served over 4 years and 9 months at our Human Services Department, and I don't see her here this evening. Julie Eilenfeld also served at Human Services over 21 years there. And I forgot to mention, with our retirees, we are losing over 440 years of experience in the last 6 months. Just kind of put that in perspective of some of the changes that are going on in our county. Jamie McCoy retired from our district attorney's office also after 21 years. She was our victim witness coordinator there. So. And then Ole Olson from the sheriff's office with over 25 years of service. If I say your name, please come forward. Thank you. Carol Verhalen was over 26 years. She was at the Sheriff's Department as a communications operator or a dispatcher. Detective Gary Curtis, over 26 years and 9 months with the Sheriff's Office. If the retirees would like to say a few words, please let us know, and we'll be glad to have you address the board as well.
It's kind of it's going to be a unique night. Leah, if you're last, I don't know, but my voice will probably be gone by then. It's kind of interesting when you have people like Gary and everybody that's here tonight that's retired. Gary's been just a super person his entire time here. You talk about a guy who's had a stellar career, worked in the jail, worked in patrol, became a detective, worked undercover, worked on our boat patrol, was Officer of the Year for saving the lives out on, I believe it was Rock Lake, Koshkonong, I'm sorry, on Lake Koshkonong. Just a super guy, one of our hostage negotiators. Gary gave, during his interview for a hostage negotiation, he actually nailed one of the questions, and I forgot that it was so perfect. Gary didn't embarrass me and tell me that he'd been asked this question once before, but he basically gave me the textbook version of the answer, and I was so impressed. But just one wonderful human being, and a detective and person from the sheriff's office who's going to be sorely missed. Gary.
I don't know if you've ever seen him shy on words that he doesn't want to say anything. Next, we have Chad Handrell from the Sheriff's Department with over 28 years of experience. If you see a common theme here, I'm saying Sheriff's Office quite often. The next one is a little unique. Deputy Stephen Ganser. Although he didn't retire with the county as a deputy, he started out with the Sheriff's Office for a number of years, 27 years with the Sheriff's Office. And then he took a job a little less stressful with the Human Services Department. And so after almost 30 years of with the county, he recently retired. So I told the sheriff and Human Services Director Relo that they're going to have to fight it off. Who wants to say something with Steve? Although I have a number of stories I could tell too.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. I do not have a number of those stories, and maybe they shouldn't be on the record anyway. But it's my pleasure to present her with this, and she was, again, like I said before, my North Star in Human Services. So thank you, Kathy.
Again, Kathy, no words, nothing, nobody wants. No, okay. Our next one is Detective Leah Meyer from the Sheriff's Office. She was out here 3 years and 4 months. I did not look at it. It starts with a J or Brewster. No, it's Monterey.
All right. I promise I won't make it do that. Can we hear me now? Okay, good. So I'm still raspy, or did this make all the difference? Apparently not. Okay. Leah's been just a tremendous asset to the sheriff's office in so many ways. There's a lot of stories that I could tell about Leah that I won't. She's probably one of the nicest people I've ever had the pleasure to meet. The word meticulous is, well, that's kind of Leah in a nutshell. She's the only person that I know that plans her garden out, has the rotations and where all the plants are going to be. Leah laughs because I just put them in and she, willy-nilly, have a little fun with it. But no, Leah's just awesome. She's also one of our investigators for child abuse, child sexual assault. Leah took that to heart and did an awesome job on those cases. To be honest with you, when Leah put her mind to a case, there was probably going to be an awful lot of work put in, a lot of time, but that victim was going to get justice. Leah worked her heart and soul for the sheriff's office and for the victims of those crimes. I can't say enough about what she's done. It's sad because I'm used to popping in and talking and having a chat with her. And when I was out of cough drops, Leah always had cough drops in her drawer to make sure I was covered. Her last day, I could not be here, but there was a bag of cough drops left for me to carry on with until I got some more. So she's just a wonderful person. She's been through every aspect of the sheriff's office, and I can't thank her enough. Leah?
I do have one. So one little quick shout out to the sheriff. When we were working undercover together, it was during the Harley Davidson 90th anniversary summer, and we had a deal up in Watertown to do, and we were actually going in as a couple. Except we weren't riding a motorcycle. This is the weird part. So we were in what did you always drive? Was it a Bronco? No. Yeah. So we show up to the deal in a Bronco, and before we get there, he's like, do you have a leather jacket? We gotta look the part, blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, I've got a black leather coat. So he bought me a pair of sterling silver Harley Davidson earrings that I could wear at the deal just to make it that much more authentic. And we made our deal and we made our bust, and the rest goes down in history. So I still have the earrings, and if I had thought about it, I would have wore them tonight. But anyways, I want to thank the sheriff for all the opportunities I was given during the time at the sheriff's office, and I greatly enjoyed my time there and will miss him dearly.
Thank you.
I also want to mention for the retirees that are here, when we're done, if you wouldn't mind stepping out in the hallway with me so I can grab a couple pictures also, that would be awesome. Our next one is also from the District Attorney's Office, Deborah Hacht. She was a legal assistant there and also was, I'm not sure exactly what the total job description or title was, but she was their IT guru, their contact for everybody on how to make their whole system run there in the DA's office. Deb has been with us for over 30 years. 30 years and 11 months, almost 31 years. And I'd like to congratulate her as well.
No.
And just another side story, the sheriff thought he actually had his annual report tonight, and I'm very glad he's not, because I don't think he's going to make it. We also have another sheriff's office, Kevin Kellogg, who retired there with 31 years and 2 months of service. And then we have Deputy Terry Wagner. She retired from the sheriff's office with over 31 years and basically 31 years and 6 months. And we'll see how long the sheriff can last on this.
Just to tell you a little something about Terry here. She's trained probably more deputies in the jail than anyone else. Terry's been just a great friend and a go-to person. If you had a question in the jail, I mean, if the sergeants had a question in the jail, they went to Terry for the answer. Terry's been there that long. She knew the jail inside and out, knew all the aspects of it. And if you had a question, and I had more than a few, Terry could give me the answer. She knew the answers, and she could tell you what the answer was before we changed the policy. That's how long and how good she was at her job. Terry trained, like again, so many of the young people that came through, and Terry was a taskmaster. She demanded that you do it right and do it right the first time, which kept us out of a lot of problems. I always chuckled that Terry would be so missed by so many of the staff, and I can't tell you how many of them have come up and said, you know, if Terry was here, I'd have the answer right now. And the good news is we're a little short in the jail. That's the bad news. However, the good news is we called Terry and we kind of cried and whined if she'd be willing to help us out a few days. And it's over 75 days, Terry, so we're good to go. I knew that question was coming in any second now. So, Terry, thank you for all you've done, for all the people you've trained, for all the lives you've impacted. I greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I am still getting texts every day.
We have one more retiree that I think is actually here tonight, Dale Coots from the Highway Department with over 33 years with the Highway Department. Dale, how many positions did you hold within the department?
I started out as a truck driver, and then I was a patrolman, and in 2000 I became the grader operator, which I held to the end here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dale.
Thank you for the career. Awesome.
Okay, we have one more retiree that's I'm hoping I'm going to hold it together. And Brent, if you want to come on up and if you have anything to say. Our longest retiree retired after over 35 years with Jefferson County from the Human Services Department, at least when she finished her career. She was an administrative assistant with the Economic Support Department, Jan Tim. Unfortunately, we lost Jan on June 2nd due to cancer. She didn't get to enjoy her retirement nearly long enough, but she is dearly missed. I think that is what the feelings of anybody who met Jan would be. When she came in to meet with us in regards to her retirement and things like that, she said, "Terry, I'm not done yet. I'm going to wait till that courthouse is done before I'm going to go on." So she just had a spirit within her. If she let things get her down, you would never know it. So I don't know, Brent, do you have anything else you want to? Okay. So I wish her husband would be here, but we do want to honor Jan and all of her years of service and her dedication to Jefferson County as well.
That takes us to public comment. Do we have any public comment? Mr. Jones, is there a sign-up sheet over by you? Seeing none at this point, we will move on to special order of business. Presentation 2022 audit report from Clifton, Larson, and Allen. Jake Linnell will be giving this presentation, and he is on the screen here somewhere. There we are. Mr. Linnell.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I'm actually getting an echo when I actually it's gone now, so I think we're good to go. So I'm going to give this a shot and share my screen. If you can let me know if that's displaying now.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is displaying.
Great. So thank you for having me in to chat with you just a little bit here. Give you a quick update on the financial audit. Also talk through some of the work that we're doing related to your grant programs in what's called a single audit. And just give you a little bit of intro to the team that's you're working with your management team. And if you have any questions as we go, please just raise your hand or just chime in and we'll talk through it as we go. Just a quick check. You're not getting an echo at all as I speak? Oh, you are getting
no echo. We're fine.
Okay. The folks on the remote access, are you getting an echo? Is there anything we can do to help those folks out? I'm hearing it in my ear, and I can power through, but I don't want to subject those to that. Actually, I'm not hearing it now. Are you guys okay at remote? All right, and you guys are okay in the boardroom?
Yes, we are.
All right, let's just nobody move. You know, it's kind of like when the old TV sets just got the reception just right. You know. So just real briefly, I just wanted to introduce the team here. I'm representing CLA. I work with your management team to work through the external audit. So it's an independent review of the work that your staff are doing. As we perform that work, we bring a team of folks to do that. And our team is entirely specialized with state and local government here in Wisconsin. We work with over half of the counties in this audit capacity. And we work with about 500 municipalities across the state, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of a quarter to a third of the municipalities in the state, performing very similar work. Beyond that, we also work in different capacities with municipalities across the country, as well as within Wisconsin, whether that be related to IT, HR, budgeting, really any of the operational type issues that municipalities face. And that really allows us to bring a lot of perspective in relation to best practices and really just as new developments occur, being able to provide some of that context and some background for what some of your peer groups may be going through. So myself as well as Mike Anderson have been on the engagement for several years now, working with your team. Both of us are dedicated to the state and local government practice as well. And our background mirrors what I shared with you from the firm's perspective in terms of really dedicating our time to those different service offerings. My specialty is really in the audit, and that's where we work most of our work with the county. But we do have other team members that specialize in additional services if those types of things were needed in the in the future. So I did just want to share a little bit on the results of the audit. This is just going to be a very high level. The actual detailed documents have been signed, sealed, and delivered as part of your packets. But did want to just share a couple of the highlights from those detailed documents, and if there are additional questions, happy to dive into those details. But the first and foremost, I wanted to share the opinion that's included within the financial statements prepared by your management team. That's a unmodified opinion, or what's commonly referred to as a clean opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that we can provide you as your auditors, that those financial statements are free of any material misstatement. So that's a positive thing. That's in terms of what the bondholders are looking for, what the GFOA is looking for when they review your annual comprehensive financial report. And you know that's what you've received in the past, and you continue to receive. But it's the highest level of assurance we can provide you. So wanted to share that. We also issue a letter that covers some of the more detailed pieces of information related to the audit process. It focuses on things like your policies and your procedures, as well as the estimates involved in preparing the financial statements. I did just want to note that we note here that there are no new accounting policies or standards. There was one that had been evaluated, and we'll talk about the impact of that here in just a little bit. But with the new reporting standards related to the lease standards, it really involves your management team reviewing any kind of lease contracts that you have in place, both as a lessee, meaning making payments on a lease, or as a lessor, where you're receiving payments for property or space that you're renting. And that really applies to anything that extends beyond a 12-month calendar period. So there is a fair amount of information to evaluate and digest. We were able to work through that. This was a new standard for all municipalities to need to work through. And ultimately, the impact that it had on Jefferson County's financial statements was immaterial, meaning it was a small enough amount to where you did not have to alter your procedures and processes to make any new changes. So we do make you aware that evaluation occurred, and so you'll see later in the notes we do talk about the funds that were impacted, but again, not from a material misstatement perspective. As it relates to the estimates that go into preparing the financial statements, being able to draw that line in the sand as of 12/31/2022 involves bringing some of these account balances to close through use of estimates. And the estimates that you have are very consistent with what we'd expect to see in the municipal reporting environment, very consistent with other counties in Wisconsin. It really has to do with your pension and OPEB liabilities, or the benefits provided to your retirees upon retirement, as well as just the useful life of the capital assets that are in place at the county, whether that be the actual physical infrastructure of the county buildings or the roads and that type of infrastructure that you're maintaining throughout the county. So as we review those estimates, we're reviewing to see, are they consistent with what you've done in the past with the history of the county? Are they consistent with what we'd expect to see based on market conditions and things of that nature? And no recommended changes or no matters to disclose there. This next slide really takes you through the what they call an uncorrected misstatement, meaning evaluating those lease standards and determining if there was a material amount there to disclose. While they are immaterial, we do summarize that information for you in the letter so that you're aware of what the impact of those amounts is on the county's financial statements. We also would disclose to you if we had any significant difficulties or disagreements encountered performing the audit, and we did not. your management team is very, very cooperative, makes the audit a priority to continue to complete, making sure that we're able to present at this June board meeting each year, despite having new standards, new rules, kind of new regulations each time to have to incorporate into the reporting process. So I'm happy to report that as well. From a grant perspective, both the federal and the state agencies that grant the county funds have requirements around when those dollars need to be tested and how they should be tested by an independent auditor. And that process is well underway here. We are working through the new programs that the county has, and have done well to really put a lot of that testing already behind us. And what I'll share as well is your management team has really been upfront in terms of getting ahead of some of the rules and regulations, making sure that the use of funds and the programming of those funds was appropriate and consistent with what the intent and the allowability clauses are within each unique grant terms and conditions. So by doing that kind of upfront work, we're able to then come alongside on the back end, perform that testing, ensure that it was consistent with what the plan was, and really be able to move pretty quickly through the testing. Despite it being kind of new, not kind of brand new, you know, the guidance on those dollars continues to evolve even long after awarding the funds, still getting clarifications around reporting and use of funds and obligation of those funds. So the fact that we're in a status right now where we've completed a substantial amount of testing, do not have any recommended changes as it relates to the processes that you have in place, do not have any findings of any type of grant non-compliance or anything along those lines. That's a testament to the diligent work that the staff and not only at the finance team but also within the departmental areas that are managing these funds and really trying to evaluate these new rules as they're coming along. So did want to share that from a positive standpoint. That as we bring that to close, we'll bring that to close well before the September 30th deadline that the federal agencies have for these dollars. So we're probably looking at a 30-day kind of close down period here as we complete that process. But happy to report that status as of today. And then just really kind of looking forward into the future, just as we're closing down the audit here in June, kind of looking into 2023 and what kind of challenges lie ahead. There is a very similar evaluation that's going to be required that's new for all municipalities as it relates to long-term IT contracts. So really any type of subscriptions where you have access to software over a long period of time. That same kind of concept of evaluating if you have a payable and an asset to amortize for that long period will need to occur. So we'll be working with your management team in a very similar fashion as to what we have done with the lease standards, and we'll continue to have some additional focus on the grant dollars as those dollars are continuing to be spent down, probably through 2024. We'll continue to see those dollars being elevated at the federal and the state level in terms of what needs to be tested. So we'll continue to work with your team so they're prepared for what our information requests will be related to that. So those are the two kind of big things that as we look down the pike, we see you know, a lot of planning and preparation that needs to be prepared for. But this is also an opportunity for the full board to ask any questions or raise any concerns or really just kind of thinking forward into the future. If there's anything that from an audit perspective or operational perspective you think we should be aware of, happy to hear any kind of input you have as well.
Is there questions for our auditor? questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Linnell. Have anything last to add? Guess not.
No, thanks again for having me. Appreciate you allowing me to join you remotely here today. I think we were on site together last year, but this actually allowed me to tackle another board meeting as well. So I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Same to you. This leads us to annual reports, Corporation Counsel, J. Blaird Ward.
Good evening, everybody. The 2022 annual report. I'm going to start off talking a little bit about my office. I don't know if all of you know what my office is about and how many people I have. I'm not going to make this a very long report, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do and hit the high points of 2022. The Corporation Counsel office has 6 staff members consisting of 1 paralegal who also serves as our county board reporter, Serena, who you see here every county board meeting, and we have 5 attorneys. We have 2 attorneys who work in the Child Support Agency. They're responsible for establishing child support orders for families that are not together to make sure that the children get the support they need, establish paternity for children who are not named on a birth certificate, and if someone who's ordered to pay child support doesn't pay, then they go to court and hold the payor in contempt, which could result in jail time. I also have another attorney in my office, Yelena Zarwell, who you see in my absence at county board meetings. She's responsible primarily for involuntary mental health commitments under Chapter 51 of Wisconsin law. She also does guardianships and protective placements, primarily of elderly people who can't make decisions for themselves. And our most recent addition to our office is Jordan Lippert. He came to us from Columbia County. He was an assistant DA. We hired him about 6 months ago. He works with Human Services, dealing with cases involving children in need of protection and services, taking temporary physical custody of children, and also terminating parental rights. These job duties were assigned to my office a few years ago from the district attorney's office when the county board passed a resolution assigning them to my office, and along with that assignment came another attorney. So 5 attorneys and 1 paralegal keeps our office pretty busy. One job duty that you may not be aware of is that my office is also responsible for serving as the public information officer for Jefferson County. If there's an emergency or disaster, there needs to be communication with the public. And my job would then be to, in theory, be on camera if there is news media that we're looking for information about the disaster, or else draft press releases to notify the public of the situation. And in preparation for that, I regularly attend, as well as my staff attends courses with emergency management to make sure we are prepared to do that. One interesting thing that happened in 2022 deals with planning and zoning. In April of 2022, the county board passed a resolution rezoning property. Not unlike the county board does every county board meeting, including tonight, there will be a rezoning request, and most likely tonight that rezoning petition will be granted. That's what happened in April of 22, except there were some citizens in the town of Concord who did not agree with that decision of the county board and eventually sued the county, seeking court order reversing the decision, rezoning a particular parcel of property. Oftentimes when the county is sued, we have our insurance company assign legal counsel, but this type of case doesn't assign legal counsel. It's not covered under a policy. So I'm in the process of defending Jefferson County in that lawsuit. We briefed our cases to the court. We had oral arguments about a month ago, and right now we're waiting for the court to make a decision on whether or not the rezoning granted by the county board should be reversed or not. And I'll keep the county board updated on that when I have more information from the courts. Getting into some of the specifics and some of the numbers of 2022, I'm not going to get into all of them, but I am going to highlight something that stood out to me in my report. It's on the bottom of the first page, and that deals with mental health commitments. I mentioned that earlier. Chapter 51 of the Wisconsin statutes puts a responsibility on the Corporation Counsel Office to represent Human Services in prosecuting involuntary mental health commitments. Now, for those of you who don't know what involuntary mental health commitments are, there are situations when usually law enforcement gets involved and finds that someone is in need of mental health treatment and they're not willing to get the treatment themselves, and they present a danger to themselves or others. Law enforcement has the ability to detain someone involuntarily and bring him to a locked inpatient facility. If that happens, then the law says we have to bring them to court in front of a judge within 72 hours. Now, last year, In 2022, we had 90 of those cases. The year before, we had 132. So we went from 132 to 90. That's a 31% decrease in those cases, and that's significant. I looked at 2020, 2019, even 2021, and the numbers were pretty consistent, but here you go from 132 to 90, 42 cases less. So what I did is I was curious as to how and why that happened in Jefferson County. So I contacted Brent Relo, our Human Services Director, and I said, what's your opinion, what's your assessment of how we were able to reduce those cases by 31% from 1 year? And basically his answer was through the efforts of healthcare providers, mental health care providers in Jefferson County, making providers available to people who need mental health treatment, including in schools. Greater availability for people who need mental health treatment means a shorter wait time to get the treatment they need. There's more availability of those providers who have the ability to treat acute mental illness as needed, and smaller caseloads for those who handle mental health situations. And one of the things that he highlighted, and has been the case in Jefferson County for many years, is when there's a situation out in the community and law enforcement responds, and there's a belief that it's a mental health issue, what happens is Human Services has counselors, and that they go out there with law enforcement. They assess the situation, and they make a determination about whether or not someone needs to be involuntarily committed. Now, sometimes they don't. In theory, you could say that there's an assessment by a counselor or social worker who can de-escalate the situation, or maybe convince someone to seek treatment voluntarily. And that would avoid the need for forcing that person involuntarily into a locked inpatient facility and going in front of a judge in 72 hours. It's always better to get treatment voluntarily than being forced into a situation. 3 months ago, this county board passed a resolution partnering with the Greater Watertown Health Foundation to create a youth crisis stabilization facility for youth between 10 and 17. That's an innovative approach in Jefferson County. It gives youth the opportunity to go voluntarily to this type of facility instead of being locked up in Winnebago potentially. So it's these efforts through Human Services that have resulted in a real reduction in what my office does through these cases. So I certainly want to commend Kathy, his predecessor, and Brent for all their efforts in doing this. I don't want to take away from his report, but it's something that is very noticeable in what my office does through the efforts of Human Services, and I wanted to recognize that. I'm going to talk a little bit about what else my office does that may affect you as county board supervisors. We issue ethics opinions. Sometimes I'll get a call from a county board supervisor that has an issue. You do a lot as county board supervisors. You vote every month as a committee member or as a county board member, and sometimes your business lives or personal lives cross. You're not quite sure if you're encountering an ethical violation. So I get calls, and I'll answer questions, and I'll also issue a written opinion to a county board supervisor whether or not it's an ethical violation. And if I issue you an opinion saying no, what you are proposing is not an ethical violation, then that protects you from a complaint that you violated the ethics code if you seek an opinion from me. The other thing I want to mention is that the Corporation Counsel Office deals with tax foreclosures. That's a big thing going on in my office right now. I just briefed the Finance Committee on that this morning, as I think I do every Finance Committee meeting, let them know what the status of the tax foreclosures are. It takes a lot of time in our office, but it's something that we need to do. Currently, we have 21 properties on the tax foreclosure list that are heading towards foreclosure. All those owners have received notice that they need to pay their outstanding taxes by July 13th. And if they don't, we're going to file a judgment with the court asking that the county take title to those properties. So fortunately, or I shouldn't say fortunately, fortunately and hopefully, a lot of these properties that I have listed on the tax foreclosure list are going to settle before then, and that's usually the case. But for those that don't settle, those that don't resolve, the county ends up taking title to, and then we need to sell the properties, which is another event in our office as well. I become essentially a realtor showing properties and answering a lot of questions about these properties. So we really like it when people pay off their back taxes, because that saves us a lot of time. So that's all I have for my annual report, Mr. Chair. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Questions for our corporate counsel? Seeing none, thank you very much, Blair. Takes us to annual report finance, Mark DeVries.
Son. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for allowing me to present my annual report to the Board of Supervisors. You should find two handouts on your desk. One of them is a very colorful slide presentation. That's this one, and then there's another one that's kind of a little more informational. I'm going to first tackle the one that's a slide presentation, and I'm not going to go through this because I realized as I was putting this together that as I was rehearsing it today that it's way too long, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So I'm just going to tell you what it is and what it's about. It's about why I love my job as a county finance director. And I'm being sincere. I put together this presentation on embracing the joys of being a county finance director, and it describes pretty accurately and succinctly about why I really enjoy my job here. And I'll let you guys, I'll read through it. And although it is very, very accurate, I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. I didn't write this. Nobody did. This was written by artificial intelligence. This entire presentation was written by AI. All I did was put in a single one-sentence command, and it gave me this presentation to give to you all. I reviewed it. It is very accurate about why I enjoy my job. And I could go on for probably about the next half an hour and explaining all this. But I did it as kind of an illustration to show you that AI is real, and it's coming. It's going to affect all of us. And this is just a good example of that. This is a one-sentence command produced this report. And I'm really, when it came out, I was very surprised by how accurate it really was. So enjoy this. If you have any questions about how this was put together or what I did to put it together, please feel free to come to my office and ask. The second handout it has to do with the accomplishments and goals for this year and the upcoming year, and I'm not going to go through that either, but I am going to do something similar to what Blair did, and that kind of explains what the finance department does, just in case there's anybody in this room that has questions about that. So basically, the finance department is responsible for accounting for and safeguarding the assets of the county. We do not own any of those assets. They're not in our custody. So when you think about who handles cash, the finance department does not handle any cash. We don't take cash. We don't have custody of any of the county's assets other than what is necessary to do our job. The Treasurer's Department handles the cash. They are responsible for taking in cash payments, and there's a good reason for that. That's because the people who are taking in the cash should not be the same people who are doing the record keeping for the cash. And our founding fathers, who set forth the duties in the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin, thought that was a good idea. And if you go anywhere in the country, almost every single local government is set up exactly that same way. So we just keep the records for everything, and then we make sure that all those records are in order when our annual audit is performed every year, and you just heard the results of that. We have 15,212 accounts that we are responsible for managing at this time. That was the count as of today anyway. And we have to make sure that all those accounts are properly coded, that all of the information in those accounts is supported by documented evidence before we turn all those records over to the auditors and turn them loose on that. We process all of the payments for the county, all of the payroll, all of the accounts payable. That all gets processed through finance. We process insurance claims, and we're the unofficial risk management department, at least for the time being anyway, for the county. We manage or assist in managing the annual budget process, and we analyze budget results, and we're looking to improve on that all the time. We prepare financial projections and forecasts. We prepare the annual comprehensive financial report, which was just reported on to you by our auditors, Clifton Larson Allen. And we also report on all state and federal grants. Wisconsin is one of 5 states in the U.S. that actually requires you to report on the expenditures of state grants back to the state. Of course, the federal government also requires that. So we prepare a list of all the expenditures for our federal and state grants, and we turn that over to the auditor every year. And they audit that. They also audit the compliance with those grants, and we're also responsible for making sure that we are compliant with, we've met all the compliance requirements for our grant agreements. We administer our county's enterprise risks management system, our ERP system, which is Munis currently, and hopefully it'll never be anything else. And then we assist others with questions about the county's finances. We do get occasional requests for information from outside parties, such as bond council, other county finance directors who are looking for, or just have questions about how we do things and best practices that they want to share with us and us with them, and any members of the public that might be interested in our records and our financial records. So with that, I'll open up the floor to any questions that you have for me or anything that my department does.
Questions for Mark? Thank you very much, Mark. Takes us to Human Services. Brent Relo.
Thank you. My name is Brent Relo, and I'm the director over at Human Services, and it's my pleasure to present our 2022 annual report. We're proud of the work we do each and every year, and particularly proud of the work that we were able to do this year. Next. Yeah, please. Oh. Hopefully that's what everybody else will say when I'm done with this. So I want to provide an overview of Human Services and give a glimpse into each of our 5 divisions with just a couple quick key points that we accomplished in 2022. Jefferson County Human Services Department has 246 employees across 5 divisions, and in 22 we had 29 million in revenues, which come from various sources. Starting with our administrative division, this is overseen by our Deputy Director, Brian Belford. It's comprised of a number of teams, primarily our fiscal team, which handles all of our accounting to include accounts payable, accounts receivable. It handles all of our financial reports, our payroll, protected pay program, and then provides a great deal of technical assistance in terms of how we report back to Department of Children and Families as well as the Department of Health Services on how we're spending the money that's allocated to us. We also obtain a number of grants throughout the year, and their technical assistance is valuable as we, again, report that spending back to the entities that provide those grants. We also have a maintenance department. They do a great job ensuring our fleet of vehicles is up to speed and running, take care of all our buildings, and our grounds are well kept. And then finally, our administrative team. They oversee our front desk. That's the gateway into our agency. They provide all the staffing at the reception area, medical records, support our full-time medical director, Dr. Haggard, filing and scheduling. The key points for the administrative division in 2022 were they handled all 327 of our vendor contracts and all the intricacies, provides the infrastructure that we are in compliance for state and federal guidelines for those contracts, as well as tracking our $14.4 million in state and federal awards that we received in 2022. We do have what we refer to as our campus over at Human Services. We have our Health and Human Services building, our Hillside building, where our comprehensive community services and fiscal folks are at. We also have our Leader House, our Workforce Development Center, and then over the last couple of years, we have added our 2 triplexes in Fort Atkinson, as well as our little house there on Dodge Street by the courthouse. We do build 14 programs for medical assistance across the state of Wisconsin, and again, our administrative team is crucial to making sure we are in compliance with that and we don't incur any paybacks. Moving on to our Aging and Disability Resource Division. This is led by Rebecca Schmidt. She is our division manager. And our largest part of our Aging and Disability Resource Division is what's known as our ADRC, our Aging and Disability Resource Center. That's the single access point or our front door for all publicly funded long-term care programming, options counseling, short-term case management, etc. We also have our dementia care specialist. She is in the community every single day working with law enforcement, doing what we call find activities in terms of locating folks that need these services in the community and really educating the caregivers through education, programming, initiatives, and spends time with our local law enforcement as well as all the CBRFs in Jefferson County. We also offer our senior nutrition program. They coordinate and serve all of our home delivered meals as well as our congregate site meals for folks that qualify for those services. And then finally, they provide all of our transportation for medical appointments, shopping, a variety of social activities for qualifying seniors and people living with a disability, which we've really grown in 2022. Some key points, like I mentioned, we provided a number of Driver escort programs, almost 12,000 one-way trips were provided in 2022. We were able to reopen the congregate meal sites in Watertown, Fort Atkinson, and Jefferson after the pandemic. And we were able to actually eliminate wait lists and serve more folks by using continuous quality improvement and developing a tool to identify who needs our services most and how we can reach those folks the quickest. So we're very proud of those key points in 2022 there. Moving along to our behavioral health division, this is managed by Holly Pagel. You heard Blair talk a little bit about our emergency mental health system, or otherwise known as EMH. We do respond same day, and we mobilize into the community to respond to mental health crises, and we align folks with appointments immediately to decrease ongoing critical crisis situation. We also operate a large integrated behavioral health clinic. We serve currently almost 700 clients on a yearly basis, and we provide individual and group psychotherapy for behavioral health issues as well as alcohol and other drugs. And then we have our comprehensive community services team. This team is for individuals that need more than what's required of an outpatient clinic, so that we are able to see those folks in the community, we're able to mobilize, we're able to see folks in schools and really build a recovery team around folks that need more than just an outpatient clinic. And then finally, we have our community support program. This is for individuals with severe and persistent mental illness. We use our Leader House, our local CBRF, to avoid hospitalizations and work with folks in the community to avoid long-term hospitalizations and get them out of the hospitals as quickly as possible. Key points in 2022, our crisis contacts were down, and we think our crisis contacts were down because we targeted being able to drive that number down. We have the co-responder model, which sees us place our mental health professionals in 3 local law enforcement agencies to respond immediately with law enforcement. We also take a look at the call logs with law enforcement on a daily basis and do follow-up for alcohol and drug and mental health emergencies. We've also targeted getting children enrolled quicker to kind of work upstream, if you will. So we enrolled about 176 children in our outpatient clinic last year, which was an increase, as well as we increased our children enrollment in CCS through a contract. And we pride ourselves on delivering that evidence-based practice where we can measure our progress, measure outcomes, and adjust to where it best fits the needs of the community. Child and Family Division, this is supervised by manager Laura Wagner. It's comprised of a number of teams, as you can see there, starting with Birth to 3, who supports family with OT, PT, and speech, as well as family education for the little ones experiencing delay at the time of birth to 3, birth to 3. We have a coordinated services team. That's our wraparound team. Most referrals come from our schools, and that program is designed to meet families where they're at and keep these families from moving further into our system and remaining in the home. We have our Children in Need of Protection and Services unit. This unit helps work with children that have been found to be in need of protection and services by our courts, and we want to mitigate whatever concerns led to their safety being compromised and getting these kids back home as soon as possible or keeping them in the communities safely. Youth Justice, folks might know this as our delinquency unit, and we keep the community safe by implementing plans with all of our youth justice individuals after they've been found to be delinquent by our local courts. Then we have our Children's Long-Term Support and Waiver Program. We're up to almost 500 youth right now in 2023, and this is a program that helps children and families with disabilities, and that program has grown tremendously in the last 4 years and will continue to grow each and every year. And then we have our alternate care program. We talk a lot about keeping kids in the home, but we do have an alternate care program that finds placements at all levels for children who do need to leave the home and go to a substitute caregiver while their primary caregiver gets the help they need to return home in the future. And then last, we have our Parents Supporting Parents program. This was a grant we received from Department of Children and Families. We're the first county in the state to receive this grant and the first county to start to initiate services. And what I mean by that is Parents Supporting Parents is taking families with lived experience in our Child Protective Services program who once lost their children via court order, was able to find their way to mitigate that safety, get their children back in the home, and now they're working with us to help other families in situations that they were involved in years ago. So very proud of that program as well. That was one of our high key points in 2022. We're continuing to drive down the alternate care budget for our 5th straight year. We're able to maximize our targeted safety services funding. We're the first county in the state to receive this funding, and that funding provides the opportunity to build services in the home to keep kids home rather than having them enter our alternate care system. So you can see how those first 2 bullet points are tied together. And then interestingly enough, our youth justice referrals reached a 5-year high, but the need to place kids has reached a 5-year low because of the use of the services that I talked about, working with local law enforcement and really getting outreach into the communities and working with school districts early and often. And last, we have economic support. This area is supervised by manager Jessica Schultze. They operate a large call center, and in that call center, they provide a number of services to our local citizens, one being the Wisconsin Shares Child Care. That's a subsidy for low-income working families to assist with child care payments. We also offer Badger Care, which is health insurance for low-income adults, pregnant women, and children. And then we move over to something that folks hear more about, and that's medical assistance. We try to get all the individuals we see at Human Services linked up in receiving medical assistance, but that's health care for low-income adults, and that is a great deal of what our economic supports folks do, in addition to providing the food share benefit, which is the monthly allowance to families to receive food share monies to use at the local grocery stores. And then we have the Children's First program, and this links up with something Blair talked about earlier, and that's child support. This is an employment case management program to help non-custodial parents meet their financial obligations. And then last, we have emergency housing. So we provide funding for rental assistance or hotel stays through a variety of resources, and then link them up with case management so they're able to have long-term housing. And if folks have heard recently, the unwinding started May 1st, which really means the pandemic is over according to the federal government, and folks are needing to reapply and meet eligibility guidelines once again that they have not had to do since early 2020. So that is causing a great deal of stress on our economic support center, and we're dealing with that currently. So we're able to process our call center calls at a rate of success at a rate of 99.27 in the consortium, which puts us as one of the leaders. We answered over 126,000 calls in 2022 to give you a little bit of an idea. And that, I mentioned we are going to see a significant workload the rest of 2023 and into 2024 because of the unwinding. In recap, we know that these success stories that we hear on a daily basis at Human Services really does fuel our passion and keeps us moving forward. We believe we're meeting not only the needs of what's our taxpayers need in Jefferson County, but also meeting those mandated requirements. We continue to be a state leader according to DHS and DCF, and we're very proud of that. And we're grateful for all of your support as the County Board of Supervisors, the Human Services Board, and I really want to thank all of our employees back at Human Services, because without them, we don't have any success stories at all. Thank you.
Questions for Brent? Any questions for Brent? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, DEW Extension, Chrissy Wen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone. My name is Chrissy Wen. I am the Area Extension Director for our Department of Extension here in Jefferson County. I have leadership over 3 county offices, so I do serve Jefferson, Rock, and Walworth counties in my role. I'm really honored to be here tonight, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to share the work that we do. So Extension's mission is to connect the people, everyone, in Wisconsin to the latest university research, knowledge, and we do that by expanding and looking for community needs that are there. Change is inevitable, and so as over the past 100 years that Extension has been in Wisconsin, we work with the counties to figure out what are those changing needs of our communities and how can we provide education to our constituents, everyone within the community to serve those needs. And so we do this through a lot of partnerships. Brent with Human Services, I'll explain a partnership that we had with them this year. We listen really hard to those that we work with, and then of course we provide the educational avenues for individuals. So our partnership with Jefferson County is really integral in our success for our programming. We're a really unique county department because in the handouts you'll see a lot of UW things going on there, but we are part of state statutes. We are a county department and we function in a lot of ways similar to all county departments, how all county departments do. So extensions programming in Jefferson County, we have 5 program areas that we cover. We have agriculture, community development, food-wise program, youth development through our 4-H, and horticulture. And extension programs are delivered locally by educators that fit within each of those program areas, and they are really experts in translating the research of the university to people where they live, work, play, and they're all solution focused on whatever need that we're identifying. So the educators that we have in Jefferson County, which are listed on the last page of the report, come with an entire support system that provides behind-the-scenes support needed to create the high-quality programming that we do. This includes everything from county support staff. Kim and Caitlin are amazing in our office. We have statewide content specialists. We have everything from getting documents translated into alternative languages other than English. We have curriculum development specialists, and we have people that serve with needs assessment to support us identifying what those local needs are. So this leads me to share a snapshot of the work we do for the people of Jefferson County. And every county, like the stories you've heard today, every county department has the story to share, and we're no different. So the report that was provided to you highlights many of the outcomes of our programming in 2022. What this list does not include, though, is some of the educators that work in multi-counties or maybe a state specialist that serves the entire state. Those are not included. I could certainly provide that information if you wanted to, but these are programs such as the Wisconsin Local Government Leadership Academy that is run through Extension, and we also have a Rent Smart program that has also had participants from Jefferson County participate. So I'd like to highlight a few of the spaces that you'll find us today and working in the future. Steve Shemaleski is our community development educator, and he works with community leaders across the county. I would like to highlight the one component of this. Speaking of human resources, Steve worked with the human resources staff to have a poverty simulation in 2022, and the result of that simulation showed an increase in the understandings of the difficult choices people with low income resources need to make. Steve also is currently working with the Jefferson Chamber of Commerce on their strategic planning process, and much of Steve's work focuses on organizational leadership development and community economic development. Jerry Wilsinski, he is our 4-H educator. Just raise a hands maybe, who has been in 4-H or who has a person in their lives in 4-H. Great, I love that. So Jerry provides leadership to 605 youth in 2022 and 108 volunteers that lead, and he leads countywide programs. Jerry focuses his work on using the Thrive model, which provides youth a place to belong, matter, and explore their personal spark. 4-H programming fosters development relationships with youth, relationships that express care, challenge growth, and share power. Together, Jerry, our support staff, Kim and Caitlin, and volunteers share a desire to work with young people to help them learn new things and gain life skills, and want to provide youth with positive experiences in a safe and welcoming environment. To ensure that all youth in our program are safe and in that welcoming environment, we do require our volunteers to complete a set of trainings. And while a lot of times can be a lot of work for our volunteers, they all understand the importance of these trainings and are dedicated to our mission to create a space where youth learn life skills like decision making, problem solving, caring for others, generosity, making healthy choices, and much more through our project-based learning. If anyone volunteers here tonight or is listening online, I really want to share a sincere thank you for the work that you do in helping us focus on youth and development in Jefferson County. We have 2 regional agriculture educators in our office. Allison Fowler is our regional dairy educator, and she works with dairy operations across 5 counties. It's Jefferson, Rock, Walworth, Dane, and Dodge. She is an expert in dairy nutrition and calf welfare, and is currently working on several dairy farms on a cover crop nutrition research project and creating a set of videos in English and in Spanish for our dairy producers. Our regional crop educator position is currently vacant, and we're currently in the process of hiring that. That position was Jordan Schuler, and so she left that position in 2023 this year, so we're working on filling that position right now. So hopefully I'll have something new to report next year for that one. Since I was here last year, we've added a program, a 0.1 FTE in our office for horticulture. Julie Hill is again another expert in horticulture. She also serves multiple counties. And between July 1, when she came on board with Jefferson County in December, she answered over 100 gardening questions from Jefferson County alone. One program that Julie is engaged in right now is Wisconsin's Pollinator Week. And so next week, if you want to, I did bring some handouts, but there's lots of free online programs for pollinators. There's an iNaturalist app that you can download and find pollinators in your area or in your backyard or when you're on your hike, things like that. So these are just some of the programmings going on statewide that Julie is running. And I can certainly hand those out. It includes multiple weeks of free webinars around pollinators. So if that's something you're interested in or you know of someone interested, please let me know. The last program I'd like to share a little bit about is our FoodWise program. Lisa Crollo coordinates this program. This program is, Jefferson County is kind of like we call it a buy one, get one, which is not a great word for that, but Jefferson County doesn't pay anything for this program. It's funded through our federal SNAP dollars, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program funding. And so this program really partners with bringing nutrition education to low-income families, and there's some details in your report about what Lisa and her educators have been doing. And we recently hired a bilingual educator to serve in this position, and Lisa is also bilingual. So Lisa's, you'll find them working at the schools in Watertown through Family Connections, and I have a very short video that I would like to share. Is that? Yeah? Okay. This is going to focus on the FoodWise program because I don't often get to share a lot about this program because of how they're funded. So these people are not from Jefferson County, but it highlights what we're doing and the impact of our work that it has locally. Thank you. That's okay. That's okay. You can just pause it. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So what this video, you can find this if you Google FoodWise Wisconsin, you'd be able to find this video right on our homepage if you wanted to see it. And what it shows is that if you saw some of those pictures in there with parents working with their children or a caregiver working with a child, or we work with low-income senior housing facilities. We work in, like I said, the libraries and schools. This program highlights that we can give basic nutrition education to individuals, and they are making different choices than they normally would. And so through this program where they'll see Lisa and the educators sometimes 6 times within a few months. They are there for usually a period of classes, usually 6 to 12 sessions that they're with individuals with. So they really gain rapport with these people. People are sharing stories with them of some of their stories of their lives with them, and and educators are really just there to help provide them some different choices that they might be able to make. One lesson that they do is a sugar lesson where they take labels off of different food, they give it to the people in the room, and then they do some math calculations, and on a little plate with a pile of sugar, they put on each tablespoon and how many grams of sugar. 4 grams of sugar equals a teaspoon of sugar, and so you'll see that and they'll say, oh my gosh, I had no idea I was giving my child so much sugar. And so those little educational moments are what's causing this long-term impact with the people that we're working with within the FoodWise program. So we work very hard to connect people from all parts of the county. Everyone has access to our resources. We really try hard to get people to know about our resources that are out there. And I hope that in the future we continue to grow our programming here in Jefferson County and continue to reach the needs of all of those and work with our partners such as Human Services and many of the other county departments to cross-program to provide services and find local needs. I'd be happy to take any questions if there are any. Otherwise, Mr. Chair.
Questions for Ms. Wen? Questions? I just want to say I had the pleasure of hearing Julie Hill for an hour and a half on public radio this past week, and she did a fine job.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Anybody else? Questions? If not, thank you very much. Okay. Takes us to committee reports, resolutions, and ordinances. Executive Committee. Ordinance amending the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors Rule of Order 2022 to 2024, Section 3.07, Rules of County Board Standing Committees, to require that all requests for payment of per diems and expenses be submitted within 30 days. Mr. Winnicky.
Ordinance number 2023-5. The Jefferson County Board of Supervisors Rules of Order establish rules and procedures for which proceedings of the county board, statutory boards, commissions, standing committees, and other bodies are governed. The Executive Committee has reviewed Section 3.07 of the board rules and recommends amending the board rule procedure to require that all requests for payment of per diems and expenses be submitted within 30 days of incurring the expense. Amending the board rules requires a 2/3 vote of the county board members at the meeting. The Executive Committee considered this ordinance at its meeting on May 31st, 2023, and recommends forwarding this to the county board for adoption. There's about a page and a half of details there, which you're free to read if you choose. You might question, well, where did this come about? I believe what we've been doing for some time is if you have an expense, you put it in your tablet, and if you try to put it in the following month, it says, well, it's sent to finance. But the board rules don't have a time limit on that, and we felt that it should, and that a reasonable way would be within 30 days of the meeting to amend it. So that is the reasoning. It has no fiscal impact, and Mr. Chair, I move approval of the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Winnicky. I just remember the note here on the end. Section 3.09 of the County Board Rules provides that amendments to the rules will be made by a 2/3 vote. Proposed amendments shall be introduced at one session of the board and laid over to the next session before action is taken, unless the board waives laying it over by unanimous vote. So at this point, we can lay this over, or with unanimous vote, we can vote on this evening. What's your pleasure? Okay, and a second from Supervisor Smith? Okay. Questions, discussion? Mr. Smith?
When it says 30 days, say this month you forget to put something on there, you put it on within 30 days, but then you don't look at it until the end of the month, so technically it would be 40 days or something. You know, does it count when you put it up, or when, you know, it's not going to be accounted for the end of the next month? So anything you forgot from the previous month, you're just not going to get paid for.
Mr. Winnicky, would you like to address that?
Yeah, I think the key to this is 30 days from the meeting. An example might be Executive Committee sometimes meets on the last day of the month. In fact, I think in May when we passed this, that meeting was on the 31st of the month. So you would have at least till the 30th of June to contact
Okay, so
payroll
it's
and
when
ask
you
them
put
to.
it up, not at the end of the next month, which would have already been past 30 days. When you know.
Well, if you wait, I guess what I'm saying is
No,
you'd have
you do
until
it
June
within
30th.
30 days. It's just you doing it within 30 days. It isn't when the county does the accounting for it.
No, that
which
isn't
would be
the,
the end of the month.
right. It's only controlling the time limit to submit the request for payment.
Okay.
Any other questions? Supervisor Backlund.
So I know the way it works now is it closes out, like if you have a meeting on the 28th, it rolls and you can't add that in the next month. Is that going to be allowed to roll it in? Or do you have to physically, that would be my only thing was, I get the 30 days, I don't have a problem with that, but then now I can't do it on my tablet because it's already been submitted. Is there a way that we can adjust that so that that window moves with whatever committee you're on?
To the best of my knowledge, right now, you'd probably have to contact payroll to get it.
See, that's hard when you have a meeting at the end of the, I mean, not that it's a problem, but that to me is my fly in the ointment. I agree with the policy. It's just, you should be able to do it in your tablet and not have to make a special effort to contact finance.
Well, and it may be possible.
I see Ben's raising his hand.
Mr. Waymire.
Sir, our intention is once the board has established a new policy, then we'll work with our programming team to make the adjustments necessary to enforce or take that policy forward.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Are there other questions, discussion? All in favor of acting on this evening, say, I guess we need a roll call vote to make sure it's unanimous. So we need a roll call vote to act on this evening. We need a unanimous vote.
Supervisor Herbst? Supervisor Richardson?
Aye.
Supervisor Paulson? Supervisor Roberts?
Aye.
We have 28 yes, 0 no, and 2 absent.
We're unanimous. So we will act on this tonight. So now we will act on the actual ordinance. The ordinance number was, pardon me again, ordinance number 5, amending the Jefferson County Board of Supervisor rules. We'll need a 2/3 vote to adopt this as part of our board rules. Any further discussion on this topic? Questions? Okay, once the board's reset, we can vote. Once the board's reset, we will vote. Sometimes technology is slower. It should be on your tablets if you're ready to vote.
Supervisor Herbst? Supervisor Richardson?
Aye.
Supervisor Paulson? Supervisor Roberts?
Yes.
27 yes, 1 no, 2 absent.
The ordinance passes with a 2/3 majority. Takes us to item 12, Human Resources Committee, amending the civil service ordinance for full-time and part-time deputy sheriffs and detectives, sergeants, captains, and chief deputy. That would be this peach-colored thing. Supervisor Brogdon.
Okay, as mentioned, be sure you're using the one that was handed out, not the one that's in your packet. It was slightly updated. It is ordinance 2023-6, and it's amending the civil service ordinance for full-time and part-time deputy sheriffs, detectives, sergeants, captains, and chief deputy. It was last adjusted in August of 22, and a lot of this is cleanup language, but a lot of it has to do to make sure that the items that are presently being worked through with our negotiations match up, as well as dealing with the long-term filling of roles and the Sheriff's Department has made some recommendations along that way. So I move for passage of this ordinance.
The second by Supervisor Zarling. Questions, discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
We have one opposed. Oh, saying aye, okay. Late aye. So it passes unanimously. Takes us to item 13, Planning and Zoning Committee. Supervisor Jacob.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Report to the honorable members of the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors. Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee, having considered petitions to amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County, filed for public hearing held on May 25th, 2023, as required by law pursuant to Wisconsin statutes, notice thereof having been given and being duly advised of the wishes of the town boards and persons in the areas affected, hereby makes following recommendation. Approval of petitions as listed. Dated the second day of June 2023, Blaine Paulson, Secretary. That takes us over to ordinance number 2023, number 7, amending the official zoning map of Jefferson County. And I move to approve the ordinance, or amend the ordinance as listed.
It is second by Supervisor Paulson. Questions? Discussion? Supervisor Kennard. Do noted Supervisor Kennard is abstaining. Any other questions? Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance passes. Takes us to item 14. Solid Waste Committee, resolution supporting Jefferson County Clean Sweep, e-waste recycling, tire recycling, and drug take-back program. Supervisor Johns.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, supporting the Jefferson County Clean Sweep, e-waste, and recycling, tire recycling, and drug back program. For many years, the Clean Sweep program has successfully provided the citizens of Jefferson County an annual opportunity to dispose of unwanted hazardous household and agricultural wastes, as well as unwanted prescription drugs in a convenient and affordable manner. Without the Clean Sweep program, residents of Jefferson County would have a limited means to properly dispose of these items. Providing these services keeps hazard waste out of the landfills and wastewater treatment facilities, helping to protect the local environment and groundwater from potentially harmful materials. The Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Department holds multiple annual events in Jefferson County to collect hazardous household and agricultural waste, electronics, e-waste, appliances, and tires. The Clean Sweep program also helps to provide assistance to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office and local police departments for implementing a drug take-back program across the Jefferson County, where over 21,000 pounds of unwanted prescription drugs have been collected since 2008. One of the many factors that promote successful events is the grant funding opportunities through the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade and Consumer Protection, and the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. This resolution shows support of grant funding opportunities and the Jefferson County Clean Sweep programs. The Solid Waste Committee considered this resolution as the May 10, 2023 meeting, and I'll just keep reading. It recommended forwarding the County Board of Supervisors support of the Jefferson County Clean Sweep and e-waste recycling, tire recycling, and drug tech programs. I move to adopt this resolution.
Who was the second? Second by Supervisor Paulson. Questions, discussion? I want to say I had the pleasure of going to the one this weekend at Lake Mills. It was well run. Got rid of my last analog TV and a refrigerator. It was wonderful to get those out of the house. So thank you very much for holding one in Lake Mills. Appreciate it.
You bet.
With that resolution, any questions, further discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That was an aye. All right. The resolution passes. Takes us next to appointment by County Board Chair. By virtue of the authority vested in me under Section 59.54, Parent 8, I request a confirmation of the following appointments. Mike Stevens, Emergency Response Coordinator to Local Emergency Planning Committee, LEPC, for an indeterminate term. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Jaco. Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I'll wait a delay here. Opposed? Hearing none. The appointment is made. Appointments by County Administrator. Mr. Waymeyer.
Mr. Chair, by virtue of the authority vested in me under Section 59.18, Parent 2, Parent C of the Wisconsin statutes, I respectfully request a confirmation of the following appointment. Mr. Dale Weiss to the Zoning Board of Adjustment for a 3-year term ending July 1st, 2026. Respectfully request confirmation of this appointment.
Move to confirm.
Moved by Supervisor Jacob. Who is the second? Mr. Brogler. Questions? Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. The appointment is made. Appointment by Human Services Board. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. By virtue of the authority vested in the Human Service Board under Section 3.06, Sub 1, Sub G of the County Board Rules, the Human Service Board hereby requests County Board's confirmation of the following appointment. Larry Schultz to the Aging and Disability Resource Center Advisory Committee, ADRC, for a 3-year term ending July 1, 2026, and Bonnie Bolden to the Nutrition Project Council for a 3-year term ending July 11th, 2026. Mr. Chair, I move for approval of this appointment.
Moved by Supervisor Jones. Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Earps. Questions, discussions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the appointment is confirmed. Public comment of a general nature. Is there anyone for public comment of a general nature tonight? Seeing none, announcements? Any announcements? Mr. Waymeyer, any announcements? Supervisor Smith.
I think the only thing is for those who have signed up for the interviews for strategic plan, you should have gotten notified of that. If you need help with that, please just let me know so we can make sure you get time with the facilitator. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do you have the dates of the retreat?
Pardon?
The dates for the retreat that was like the end of July or August?
I don't have that handy with me right now. It's on my email.
Okay.
Ben, do you have it handy at all? He asked for when the dates are for the retreats. I don't know if we can.
And we'll make sure we send another email reminder out, but it'll be basically the afternoon, early evening of July 31st. And then the morning of August 1st, looking probably kick off around 8 o'clock to around 12. We'll finalize those times. It will all take place at the Watertown Public Library in their new community room up there.
Thank you, Mr. Waymeyer. Any other announcements? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Jekyll, second by Mr. Johns. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.